Brother Davis, I've gathered you here today to record a podcast. And the podcast is for the people. And the power is in the people. Now, Brother Davis, I want you to repeat after me. I am
a revolutionary.
No!
I fucked up. All right, go back.
Just repeat what I say.
Start it over.
Now, Brother Davis, I want you to repeat after me. I am a podcaster.
A podcaster.
I am a podcaster.
A podcaster.
I am a podcaster.
A podcaster.
Now bring in the music. Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
Kalen.
And today's movie up for discussion is Judas and the Black Messiah, directed by Shaka King and starring Daniel Kaluuya and that other guy.
Lakeith Stanfield.
I'm trying to click the link to go to the fucking IMDb. Kalen, what did you think about this movie?
So I recently watched this for the first time a couple months ago. I saw Daniel Kaluuya and then Lakeith Stanfield. I love both these actors, so I was like, let me give this a shot. And it's about the story of Fred Hampton and the Black Panther movement. And this movie was quite good. It's got some very heavy themes, some very heavy subject matter going on. I mean, this is inspired by real life events, so I mean that's to be expected. But yeah, overall, it's a great movie. I enjoyed it a lot.
So I'd say this movie is in the tradition of many others where the title tells you the ending.
Yeah,
like the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, or JFK. Because that motherfucker died.
If you don't know about JFK by now. Like.
Remember? Lee Harvey Oswald? Anyways.
Allegedly.
So, yeah. Or a massive conspiracy. It could be either or. Based on what we've seen in this movie, I would lean towards a massive conspiracy by the government.
Oh, for sure.
I agree with you. This is a really excellent movie. I thought it was... it's important, once again... Yeah, I find it annoying. Maybe not annoying is a word, but I just wish we had a different word, or maybe I'm just lacking the vocabulary, but calling movies like this important doesn't seem right. Or it seems like because this is our Black History Month movie, right. This is the finale. Can a black movie be important without somebody dying or without being a tragedy?
Right.
Or
right.
just in general.
I see it maybe as like, it should be a requirement that you know this history. You know what I mean? And this leads into a larger subject of whenever there are stories about or real life events about this type of subject matter, any kind of like a group of people or one person, I'm thinking about like Malcolm X or the Black Panther movement that kind of goes against or challenges the ideas of Martin Luther King, you're not going to learn about it. Number one, because it scares white people. And
they're all like, gave black people guns. We don't like that.
Right. I mean, that's America's worst nightmare is a bunch of black men with guns. And I mean, that's why I think movies like this are, like you said, I mean, important. They are important, but I think they should be a requirement. Like, they should be showing this in schools so people can learn the history, you know?
I can say, certainly, I'm still not fully. Like, I researched some of this stuff after, and obviously this movie informed me, but I didn't know the full story of Fred Hampton or the Black Panther movement. Like, I knew some bits and pieces, and I still only know bits and pieces, but it's definitely a subject that, like, my white ass middle class boomer ass family is never gonna teach me.
Right.
Certainly wasn't taught me in any of my textbooks.
Right.
Is certainly not like it's. Yeah, for sure. We can get more into this, but like, Fred Hampton was killed for his ideas.
Yeah.
The government does not like those ideas. Right. And there's a very obvious reason why it's not in your public school textbook.
Sure.
Or whatever, you know? Or when it is, it might be skimmed over and
painted out as something different, as like they were terrorists or they were radicals. I mean, which in a sense they were radical, but I mean, they had radical ideas.
I think it's what we call a both and.
Right. I mean, but they weren't terrorists. You know, I mean, they fought for the people, and that's what
they weren't Al Qaeda.
No.
But
because when I think of terrorists, that's what the fuck I think of is fucking ISIS and shit. Or
post 9/11, we think of Al Qaeda and ISIS. I think the most modern version of terrorism right now is ran by whites.
MAGA.
Have you seen? Hey, do you remember the Capitol building?
Remember they tried to overthrow the fucking government?
Like, this movie came out like a month after that.
Yeah.
So kind of really shines a light on the way that the police responded in that incident versus how the police responded to Fred Hampton's speech and the way they put him down.
Right.
So
I mean, like what you said earlier, this story, this real life story is literally a government conspiracy that was true.
Right.
Everything we think the government is doing, these motherfuckers are doing, apparently. You know? And so
it was all done by J. Edgar Hoover, who's Martin Sheen, who looks like the Penguin in this movie with his ridiculous makeup.
And he probably has something to do with Martin Luther King too. You know? It leads into a bigger subject. And we don't want to go down this conspiracy rabbit hole, but most likely it's true. Okay?
Yeah. Things may not be, a lot of government assassinations may not be what they seem. Also, let's just say recent events, massive protests, Black Lives Matter, et cetera, don't think that stuff like that isn't happening again.
Yeah.
Maybe not no-knock raids that end in a bullet in the head of a leader, but certainly there's rats, there's informants, there's the government has their fingers in all that shit.
Right. I mean, there's a big thing right now with some rapper who's like, you know, with the YSL, and he's just ratting out everybody. But, I mean, they have to come to that point where it's like they get flipped by somebody, you know, and it usually happens to these young black men, and that's what this story is really, I mean, the protagonist, that's what his whole arc is about.
Our main character is Bill O'Neill. It's not Fred Hampton. It's Bill O'Neill. It's the man that infiltrated the Black Panthers and was an FBI informant.
Yeah.
And he was put on, he was in a tough spot. So let's move on to the performance test, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. The performance test is where we talk about our favorite performances, actors, characters, and moments. And that's why I wanted to move on, because I want to talk about Lakeith Stanfield as Bill O'Neill. And specifically, the way he like carries this duality, which it's so interesting, because the man himself, like this is a real life man.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I want to give a little historical context. Bill O'Neill is the man that ratted out Fred Hampton. I watched his tell-all interview that he did for PBS. Soon later, he walked out in traffic and killed himself.
It was like either on the premiere or like shortly after the premiere of the PBS documentary.
And it's just really interesting because the man himself is clearly like very conflicted and maybe even a little delusional about like the effects of his actions and the way all this went down.
Right.
But we open this movie with a real clip of him, and then we cut to Lakeith Stanfield as him reenacting this interview. And Lakeith Stanfield, like my first note for the performance tests are Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield just two of the best actors of like the last decade?
They're definitely in that group for sure.
Like Kaluuya's great, but just talking about Stanfield, like I think he's the one that maybe of the two has a little less range, but he is so good at like minute details and understated performance where it doesn't have to be this big showy thing, but it really like imbues so much character with just small details in his performance.
Yeah. And he's really good at emoting too. You can see a lot of like him being conflicted through his face, and without him having to verbally, spell it out for you.
There's a lot of scenes where things are going down that are extra complicated for Lakeith Stanfield because he has this dual role.
Right.
He doesn't get to say anything because he's in the middle of it. He can't rat himself out. So, yeah, it all plays out on his face as we cut away from the situation to Lakeith Stanfield's face and just watch him react. Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton. I mean, this is the big showy performance. This is the one that, like...
the Oscars are looking at,
In fact, let me look, because...
but he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this.
Yeah.
Because technically, I mean, he's not the protagonist.
Yeah.
And there's only so many awards they can give out. Lakeith Stanfield was nominated for Best Actor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he won.
Somebody won an acting Oscar. Daniel Kaluuya won the best performance in a supporting role, which I think that's the kind of performance the Oscars are looking for. I don't know if they really like the understated. Right. They like the big, bombastic ones, and my God, does this man, and if you watch some of his old speeches, the real Fred Hampton is like this. Like, once he starts talking, you're riveted.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were talking about in the Fences podcast how Denzel's character fills the room. This motherfucker fills the room,
for sure. Even when he's not on stage.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel his presence.
He is a showman. But I think what really sells it is he clearly has the convictions of his character. Like, he clearly believes all the things that he's saying. He believes in uniting all colors against an oppressive system.
Yeah. My favorite line from him is when he's like, I'm going to die for the people because I live for the people. And that's such a powerful statement. It just defines his whole character.
I don't believe I'm gonna die in no car, Red. I don't believe I'm gonna die slipping on no ice. I don't believe I'm gonna die because I got a bad heart. I believe I'm gonna die doing what I was born for. I believe I'm gonna die half the people. I'm gonna die for the people because I live for the people. I live for the people because I love the people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's several scenes where we get to have big speeches, but it's really funny because it's also becomes realistic. Like, so he has we get introduced to him and we have all these big speeches, and he always just seems like he's that guy. You know the meme. You're not that guy, pal. He is that guy.
He's that guy. Yeah.
But then he gets alone with the girl that he has a crush on, and she has a crush on him, and he's just like he shrinks.
He's a big teddy bear.
He's certainly not smooth, but I mean, he makes a baby, so
She's just like, this guy he's got away with words.
She's like, I didn't expect you to be shy. I thought I wrote it down, but Daniel Kaluuya or Fred Hampton knowing all the words to the like Malcolm X speech that the girl comes to the door.
Yeah.
When the girl comes to the door that he's like saying all the words to, and then him not being able to talk to this girl is a real like, am I on the spectrum moment? Like,
yeah.
Like, but I think he really does. That duality feels realistic, and it's also important to note that like the real Fred Hampton is really young.
He was like 21.
He's like 21. So is Bill O'Neill. He was like 19, 20.
Which is insanity.
Which I almost wish, while these actors are great, I almost wish we'd maybe made this movie 5 years earlier with the same actors, right, where they seemed nearly as young, because they seem a bit older. They look like men in their 30s.
Right. It would have made it that much more impactful, I think.
Because it is really like, think about what you did when you were 19. Not shit.
Not shit. Smoke weed. Try to finger fuck people.
I got two things on my mind: finger blasting and getting high. That's so gross, Kaylin. You're sounding skeevy.
Moving on.
Maybe our third build guy is it Roy Mitchell is the character's name, or the real man's name, the FBI agent that recruits Lakeith Stanfield?
Bill O'Neill.
Yep. And he's played by Jesse Plemons, who is just going to be forever typecast as like the worst white dudes you've ever met.
Yeah. He's got such like a fuck off face, you know what I mean? Where it's like, he just looks, something's off about this guy.
I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but I watched this movie where it's about, he's like this ultra rich guy and his wife, and they come back to a house and there's a man there and he like sticks them up for money and they have to wait there all day because he like it's gonna be like a day for the bank to process like this $500,000 or whatever. Anyways, the point is, very hateable white guy in this, very hateable white guy in the next.
Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
No, but I did hear he was in the episode like that where he's
The
basically
Star Trek episode.
where he's basically like Captain Kirk but sexual harassment-y.
Yeah, so he like makes a video, or there's a video game and that he's like he's a part of this company that created this video game. It's like augmented reality, and he's like the developer though, or he's like the core developer, so he's good at coding and shit. So he codes all these people that he hates and puts them in the game, and so he can go in there and they have like, I mean, it's their whole mind basically uploaded into the game. So all these people are like literally living inside this game, and he just goes in there and he's like fucking around with them, being real weird and sexual harassy and all that kind of shit. It's a good show. You should watch it.
Interesting. I should watch Black Mirror.
Oh.
Glass Mirror? That's all of
Glass
them, aren't
Onion?
they? Glass. I don't know. Through the Looking Glass. Alice in Wonderland. He's a great performance. It's also interesting. I think you peg his character to be a certain way, and I don't think he's quite that. It is a realistic take where he doesn't really seem spiteful or hateful.
He's not a full-on racist.
And he does not seem like fully on board with what actually happens at the very end.
Yeah.
With the murder of Fred Hampton. So there's a lot of nuance there, which we get Herbert Hoover as Martin Sheen looking like the Penguin, looking like Oswald Cobblepot, and he's the one that's like the real villain,
awful.
like completely cartoonish. Like J. Edgar Hoover was
What
not.
did he ask him when he was in the office, or he was having a talk with him? He was like, "What would you do if your daughter brought home a Negro?"
Yeah, Martin Sheen as J. Edgar Hoover shaking down Jesse Plemons about what would happen if his infant daughter dated a black man made me want to fall into the abyss. That's what I wrote down.
Actually,
I was like, holy shit,
that's
where is this city, like, where is this scene going? I'm upset. And Jesse Plemons keeps going like, why are we talking about my daughter? Like, what the fuck is happening here?
Well, and like his character is essential to the story though. And we'll get into more of this in the themes, but it really sets up the whole just overarching narrative about what's really going on and what are the real issues. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
And I think the other main character we really need to talk about, although I just want to shout out to the actor whose name I'm forgetting, who is the drunkard in Midnight Mass. He is a fellow FBI agent.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
He's in a lot of TV shows. I've seen him in... Oh, no, he was in Halloween Kills.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, he was like the one boyfriend's dad.
Yeah. Dominique Fishback, who is Becky? Deborah Johnson. Fred Hampton's mother of his baby. I don't know if they ever got married or if they were just boyfriend and girlfriend.
It says Hampton's girlfriend.
Okay, so she's a really good performance. She's kind of she's kind of the emotional core of the... She really like grounds Fred Hampton as a person and really allows us to see him as more than just this man making big speeches.
And it gives him some personal stakes as well.
Yes. And she's maybe not fully on board with some of his speech, like when he's saying that line that you said where he's like, I live for the people, I'll die for the people.
Right.
She's 7 months pregnant, like, wait, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
You just knocked me up. Like, and they have that whole drag out. She's an excellent actress, or at least excellent in this part, and I think that kind of gets us through most of the main cast, unless you have anyone else to talk about.
No, I mean all the other supporting actors, they do a fine job.
There's lots of good standout Panthers that are great, like little side characters we get. Oh, one thing I did is I wanted to shout out Lil Rel Howery. He's like the dude that's the pimp that slips him the sleeping agent.
Oh yeah.
I was watching it. I was like, wait, is that Cedric the Entertainer? No, wait, that's Lil Rel. I was like, wait, Lil Rel's doing actual acting. He's not just like a side character comedy guy.
And this is a good movie to do it too.
It kind of blew my mind, and it was a great scene. All the scenes are great. This movie rocks.
Should we move into It's an Art?
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso. Yeah, that way.
It's an Art Bro is where we talk about the themes, sets, effects, lighting, framing, and soundtrack of these movies. Did you have something you want to start with?
Yeah, so going into just the themes of the characters. So I saw Lakeith Stanfield's character as the idea of capitalism. Lakeith Stanfield and then any of the FBI agents, they kind of represented capitalism, whereas Fred Hampton represented socialism. And then it's that whole dynamic, that conflicting dynamic between the two parties. And then obviously Judas's betrayal of Jesus. It's another big theme, which is, it's funny because the story is based on real life as well. So, those are just two themes that kind of stuck out to me.
Like the movie opens up, and I don't know if this is a real quote or just something made for the movie, but it's Hoover like giving a presentation about the Black Panthers, and then he's like, we need to prevent the rise of a black messiah that will like lead these people. Everybody else, even the bad people for the most part, get imbued with like or not the bad people, but you know, the FBI agents, like especially Jesse Plemons' character, get imbued with like a little bit of character and a little bit of like, oh, I don't agree with him, but I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any of that. He's just like, you fucking suck. Deep down, I think I might have the heart of an addict. And one of the things I'm always searching for when I watch a movie is there's a moment. Almost in all great movies that I love, there's a moment where I'm watching them and like I get this tingle up my spine. I'm like, this is going to be great. And I knew that like right away with this movie. Like 5 minutes in, right after we get our like real life montage that turns into Lakeith Stanfield that cuts to J. Edgar Hoover, I was like, fuck, whoever's making this movie is kicking ass.
Yeah.
Them flames lighting up the sky. Ain't never seen fire shooting up so high. Look at them flames lighting up the sky.
Look at them
Ain't never
flames
seen
lighting up
fire
the sky.
shooting up so high.
I ain't never seen fire shooting up so high. Are you listening, people, to what I'm saying? Because it sure looks to me like them niggas ain't playing.
Them niggas ain't playing.
Them niggas ain't playing.
Them niggas ain't playing.
Black Panthers are the single greatest threat to our national security, more than the Chinese, even more than the Russians. Our counterintelligence program must prevent the rise of a black messiah from among their midst, one with the potential to unite the communists, the anti-war, and the new left movement.
We don't fight fire with fire, we fight fire with water.
This man,
We don't fight racism with racism, we gonna fight us out
Frederick
there.
Allen Hampton.
We ain't gonna fight capitalism with black capitalism, we gonna fight capitalism with socialism.
This is great. This sucked me in. I am just like when they shove the toothpick through your sandwich so it sticks all together? Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. I felt like I was stuck to my chair, just toothpick right through me.
You know, it's funny because I don't usually like biopics. I don't know if you would agree with me. I'm not a big fan of like real life stories.
Generally, they're like boring character dramas that really like are kind of just sucking off whoever it's about.
They're usually really pretentious.
Yeah.
And so with this, I was pleasantly surprised to see some depth to the actual story. And like, I mean, this is just, the real life story is even more insane, honestly. Just the fact that this really happened. And
tragedy aside, it's great source material. Like,
oh yeah.
Like you need to tell this story on the silver screen.
And like, I don't think a movie has really made me angry the way this movie does, especially with the ending and the assassination of Fred Hampton. I haven't felt that kind of emotion with a movie before.
You know, I felt like I was like ahead of it. I felt like I was smarter than the movie. I was like, ain't no way they just busted in and shot like that. Like, what is the point of poisoning him or, putting him to sleep if they're going to bust in and just shoot everyone?
Right.
But that's like literally how it went down. It's up in the air whether or not he was actually drugged that night, but the police shot 100 shots and the Black Panthers shot 1, maybe.
They didn't even know what was happening. Like, that scene just made my blood boil, man. And you know what? I kind of harken it back to the movie Detroit. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's with John Boyega, and it's about the Detroit massacre that happened at this this motel in Detroit. This was during the Detroit riots. But that whole movie just infuriated me because it was a bunch of white officers that went in and just basically held all these people hostage, and then there was a giant massacre after. And I actually saw it in real life. I've seen this motel because I have some family in Detroit. But anyways, that infuriated me. And then the ending of this was just like, oh my God, like I haven't felt this type of emotion from a movie in a long time.
This feels like a really good. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if I did, but it feels like we chose some real good bookends to our Black History Month. I feel like Do the Right Thing as a piece of fiction, and then this as a truth-based fiction is exactly like they're kindred spirits. They feel like two sides of the same coin, expressing the exact same thing 30 years apart.
I mean, because this story is like part of the inspiration for Do the Right Thing, you know, and it's really incredible to think about. Because without this story, without this real life event, you wouldn't probably have Do the Right Thing.
No,
you know.
Story of, what does he say? It's the story of love and hate. And hate is throwing haymakers. You think he's gonna win, but here comes love, left hand.
There's some great quotes in that movie.
Well, I want to get a little bit away from the themes and just acknowledge some of the filmmaking. Like, also, it's a kick-ass movie in the filmmaking aspect. Like, once we get past our opening montage, our first scene is Bill O'Neill committing the crime that gives the FBI the leverage to press him. And that's all shot, like, one take shot, third person, like, camera right behind our man. Kick ass. This is Shaka King's first movie ever.
And it should be said that the cinematography was done by Sean Bobbitt. So he's worked on 12 Years a Slave, which is also an amazing movie, very sad and depressing, but it's a great movie as well. A handful of other things. Old Boy by Spike Lee, Kill the Messenger. Just a handful of other things, but masterful job with this.
Yeah, lots of great use of, like, there's lots of night scenes with nice, like, ambient neon colors lighting up everything.
Yep.
It's just really beautifully shot. When we got big scenes with lots of people, it's very well choreographed.
Oh, and the shootout scene was so tense.
It felt like a not Goodfellas, but isn't there a scene in The Untouchables where, like, somebody just, like, let a bunch of dudes in suits and hats, like, let off a bunch of Tommy guns? It felt like
shoot
that.
Into a house. Yeah,
it felt like that, but it was the FBI raiding a bunch of Black Panthers.
Yeah, that was insane. Great sequence though.
This is a period piece, so we got lots of 70s costumes, lots of hair and hair extensions.
Lots of 70s hair.
If I'm going to put a little bit of, like, there's not a lot of criticisms I have for it, but I was looking at the seams of all these hairs and hair extensions. Like, I think that's where the real fro, like, that's where the hair ends and the fake fro begins. That chin strap beard is not real.
A lot of fake sideburns going on.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's just par for the course for, like, you're making this kind of movie, and once we started filming in 4K, like, sorry, you can't hide that shit.
Man, 70s fashion was wild, or 60s, 70s fashion was wild. This is set in the 60s.
I just really love the way everyone talked. They were like, brother man,
Yep.
come right over here.
They're like, you jive, turkey.
Can you dig it? What did the scene where another thing is, this is a sad movie, but it's not completely, like, dour the entire time. You're not like, this is miserable the entirety. There's some really funny scenes, like when the FBI agents are trying to get, like, the talk right. What does he say? He's like, don't they say, like, dig in? Like, can you dig in? And they're like, motherfucker, they do not say dig in.
They don't say that. They say dig in.
Like, no. I've absolutely heard them say dig in. I think that's as their...
That was another thing that was insane, finding out that the FBI would create flyers and just pass them around the fucking city. Like, that's insane.
They created a fake flyer that was trying to drive a wedge between the Crowns, which is a fictional gang, but there's an actual real gang that they aligned with, that the Black Panthers align with. And I'm gonna put the clip in here because I can't save it, but I love the way the Crown's boss, the first thing he says to Fred Hampton. Do you remember?
I don't remember this.
So, what can I do for you? Well, I want to know what we can do for each other. Y'all doing some great work mobilizing young brothers on the South Side. But we are part of a national organization dedicated to the liberation of oppressed people everywhere.
This nigga got some $1 million words, don't he?
That whole scene was like straight out of the Warriors or something. I was like, were gangs in the 70s really like this? Like, they all wore matching colors and vests and shit, and we're like...
They all had little matching berets.
It looked like the Beat It music video, Michael Jackson.
It was like the fucking Jets and the Sharks. I expected them to like start snapping at each other with their matching outfits and hats.
Warriors come out and play. If you haven't seen that, you still need to watch that.
I haven't seen the Warriors, but I know the Warriors line because this podcast I used to listen to with Jalen Rose. Whenever they would talk about the Warriors basketball team, they would drop that clip. So they'd be like, so anyways, about Steph Curry, and it'd be like, Warriors, come out and play.
That's great. Yeah, you got to check out the Warriors. We should probably do an episode about it.
I think April, we're going to do just like April Fools. We're just fooling around.
All right.
Fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do whatever we want.
Throw a little curveball in there.
The one thing, I think the final thing I have for It's an Art Bro is that so every like true life story, what do they call it? Movies based on real events, they always have that ending montage with the real facts.
Yeah.
And it's a cliche. But it is so necessary for the end of this film.
Yeah.
Because it puts so much context around everything that we've seen, especially if you're not familiar with the story. It really like, you don't know that, like, I certainly didn't know that Bill O'Neill kills himself after he gives his tell-all interview. I'm watching this whole movie like, this piece of shit.
Yeah, and you're thinking he's probably still out there, you know.
Haha, laughing away, just being disconnected from all this shit. But it clearly was eating at him. He clearly, well, he says in his interview, like, I thought there was going to be a raid. I didn't drug him, is what he said. And he's like, the last thing I expected was for Fred to die in that. All I expected them was to raid the place, maybe take some guns, arrest some people. Which, still, you're shitty. Like, you sold them out.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally, I don't think he thought he was putting people at risk. In fact, I think he thought he was helping people. Well, and that he was, in his own way, helping the safety of the community.
Well, I mean, and that you have to think about, too, what he was going through personally as well. I don't think he was necessarily a bad guy.
We should also say, I don't think we ever said that the reason he flips as an informant is he's like a carjacker and he takes a car across state lines, so they have like federal charges they could put on him, and he's like, you can do 5 years of prison.
Or you could help me, basically.
Yeah.
And so he's got some shit going on with himself where he's like, you know, I don't want to do 5 years in prison because who knows if I'll even be alive by that time. You know, and then also it's like, you know, everybody looks out for themselves at the end of the day too, you know, and so that again ties back into that whole concept of like capitalism where it's like, you know, I'm doing whatever I can to get ahead.
He also got paid.
Right. And so there was currency involved as well. And so it wasn't the worst deal to take in regards to his thought process.
I forget exactly what they said. It's not like he got mega rich, but I think over the course of a few years, they paid him, I think it was like $200,000 or like $400,000.
I think he got a $300 raise for whatever he was doing, and so all of that multiplied together was like $230.
Yeah, so that not in that's in like 2022 amounts. Whatever, it was inflation adjusted. The quote they give at the end.
What was the dollar amount back in the 60s?
I mean, back then you could buy like a pop for like a nickel. So like, you know, inflation adjusted.
He was doing pretty well.
He was doing okay. I also love that one little note is every time he's not a Panther and he goes to meet with Jesse, like as time goes on, his like outfits get a little fancier. Yeah. So it's like clear that he's like doing a little better.
Right.
Is feeling a little more well off. Where it's like by the end where they have their most intense meeting, he's like this jazzy little button up with like a nice fedora and he's like looking kind of swanky.
Right. But then it's also too, it's like the farther into the movie you get with him, the more he starts to unravel. And so it's like, well, you're doing all this at what cost, you know? And there's some scenes where he's like, genuinely, you think he's like a psychopath. Just the way he's interacting with people, he's so like aggressive and on guard all the time. I mean,
like the scene where they say they found a rat.
Oh yeah, and he's in the car with them. Yeah.
No, the scene where he goes to the base and they say they found a rat and they like threw boiling water on him and threw him in the river.
Yeah.
And he's like real shook for a minute. Then he's like, "Shit, I would have killed that motherfucker too."
Covering his ass.
Covering his ass so hard while shaking in his boots.
You got a snitch.
What the fuck is you talking about?
How the fuck did the pigs know Sam was even here?
Y'all ever think about that?
That motherfucker run his mouth so much, he probably out of his damn self.
No, nigga, because they took the donor rolls and they left all these goddamn binders here. You understand what I'm saying? They went straight for the safe, right? Then they went straight into the weapons cabinet, which is right in the fucking slop closet. It's like they knew where everything was.
Hey, smart enough, brother.
What?
You falling right into the pig's trap.
What the fuck are you talking about, man? You know, Jimmy, maybe you a goddamn pig. You ever think about that? Hey! Show some discipline. It's a goddamn rat in here, Bobby, and when I find him, I'm gonna smoke him out.
And again, Lakeith Stanfield's performance. It's all like this minutia behind his face as he like kind of like works out what's the best thing to do in this situation.
He always looks like he's about to cry. Like
the poisoning scene.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't?
I wouldn't have took a drink from that shaky fucker.
No. Like, here, man, here's some sweet tea.
Oh, did I leave that over there? Whoa, is this a... You know what other movie ended this way? Glass Onion. Spoilers for Glass Onion. Sorry.
In any situation like that, I'm making the person take a sip first, you know?
Why are you looking like a shaky, crying motherfucker?
Sip the drink.
Why are you so nervous about bringing me this drink?
I didn't know if you like your tea sweetened or not.
Do we have any more notes for It's an Art Bro?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, let's go to Let the Hate Flow Through You.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Let the Hate Flow Through You is where we air our annoyances and our complaints. Do you have any, Kalen?
Nothing I can really think of off the top. I'm actually looking forward to watching this a few more times to see if I can catch anything that's a little odd or a little off, but no, nothing. Well, maybe like the gang scene where the gang meetup was a little hokey.
It was hokey, but it had this. It was so charming in the execution, and I also think everybody looked goofy in the 70s. So how do you make those dudes look cool?
It just felt a little bit like Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing where we meet up with the gangs. Yeah, you know, like it was a little goofy, but it didn't take away anything from the movie.
It definitely had a like a film flair that was not probably aligned with reality, but just made it more fun. My only one criticism is I think maybe a little bit in the very like near the end of the second act before we ramp up to the final like the finale. It sags a little bit. There was like maybe 10 minutes there where I was like, I'm a little bored, but minor complaint. I think that was just giving you a moment to breathe before we really punch you in the gut.
I think maybe too I would have liked to see more Fred Hampton. I just think Daniel Kaluuya's performance was electrifying, and I just wanted to see more of that. But again, it serves purpose, and it is his story, but he's not the central focus.
So I just want to hijack this spot to maybe talk a little bit about the differences between reality, just from what I looked up and researched, and what the movie shows us. Or maybe not reality, but at least Bill O'Neill's, what he says in his interview. And he talks about, so in the movie, we have a scene with Roy Mitchell very early on. That's the FBI agent. And Bill O'Neill, Lakeith Stanfield's character. And he starts going on about how he's like, do you remember blah, 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 this thing with the Klan? And they brought down the Klan. And he's like, this is just the flip side of that coin. They are going to bring down, they are just as bigoted and hateful or whatever, or they are just as evil, or they are just as much a danger as when we take down the Klan. So, you really shouldn't feel any sorrow for this. You were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Bill O'Neill, according to him, real life Bill O'Neill, Roy Mitchell didn't really talk much about the morality of this or give much of his own opinion on the goings on. Mm-hmm. He was more just a figure that showed up, gathered information, and left. He really never, until the police got killed, because there's a police shootout with one of the minor Panther characters, which is again based in reality. There's a real shootout that led to all this and got all the Chicago police and the FBI all aligned to murder Fred Hampton because of this shooting. up until that point, Rory Mitchell, I guess, didn't really say much. And when he did, it was about the police dying and how sad he was and how upset he was about the situation surrounding that. But it also seemed like he was not on board. And that's shown in the movie, that he's not really on board with the way that they handled it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also many instances of the FBI in the movie trying to set up Fred Hampton to incite violence. I'm thinking specifically the scene where Lakeith Stanfield's character shows Fred Hampton a bunch of like explosives in his trunk, and it's like, we could blow up City Hall. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're at war right now. We should be doing war shit. And then Fred Hampton's like, nah, man, we don't. This is not the way we handle things, kind of thing. And so that aspect is insane as well.
And it's interesting.
I don't know if that's true to life, but
yeah. Well, certainly. So Bill O'Neill also says that the Panthers were actually receiving C4.
Okay.
So it's interesting because I wonder if, like, in the movie, it almost seems like maybe Fred Hampton says some of this stuff. It's like that clip in the Jay-Z and Kanye song, which probably has an original. But what does it mean? It doesn't matter what it means. It gets the people going. Some of the things that he said he might not have fully meant. Like when he's like, the only good pig is a dead pig, kill all the pigs.
Right.
Certain stuff like that maybe was not as literal as in his meaning, as much as like, I'm riling up the people. I'm like gathering a squad. And maybe as a young man that he doesn't fully understand the power of those words and the ways that could incite violence or bring down violence from either side. So I just think it's a little vague in that aspect in reality, I think, and in the movie as to how much of that he meant and how much of that was like flashy rhetoric to get attention.
Mm-hmm. Preach, Brother Michael, preach.
And this we already kind of covered, but Bill claims he never poisoned anyone. Fred doesn't do drugs. He said he's just a sleepy guy that slept all the time, so maybe he just slept through all that shit, which also doesn't really add up because you can sleep through a lot. 100 fucking gunshots, you're not going to sleep through that. So I think something else happened. Maybe Bill's lying, and just the
he didn't want a murder charge.
No, I don't think he wanted Fred Hampton to die. I think he was thinking maybe they just wanted to ensure that he would be captured, like he would stay behind, he would not be fleeing or escaping somehow.
Well, I mean, I've read things where he really enjoyed Fred Hampton, just being around him, and he was really inspired by him as well.
It's so interesting, the real life interview, because he's constantly referring to himself as we the Black Panthers, we did this, we did that. But he's so aligned against them, obviously, with his actions. And it's just like, I guess it's like duality of man, the complexity of people. Like, I don't know if he was like just so swept up in the moment that, you know, he didn't contemplate the consequences that could be happening for all these actions.
Maybe it's a coping mechanism where it's like he has to refer to himself as part of them in order to live with that shit.
And the one clip from that interview that they use in the movie is when they ask, what will you tell your son about that? He's like, I'm going to leave that up to your documentary, but I mean, I'd probably just say I was part of something. I wasn't on the sidelines. I made my own, which is kind of a non-answer. Like, you were a part of something. Really, what you were a part of was getting Fred Hampton murdered.
Yeah.
If we're being realistic about the consequences of your actions. But it just seemed like he really, like you were saying, it's a coping mechanism. Like, he wants to see the best aspects of what he did in every situation on all sides, but he cannot see the downsides.
I mean, he's literally Judas.
Yeah.
Right? Like, literally Judas. Judas loved Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. It's just such an insane concept. You can't even really wrap your head around this story. Like,
and I'll go back to Lakeith Stanfield. I think he really portrays that adeptly.
Yeah.
You see the conflict there on the screen, even when nothing's being said. I don't know. I think a lot of people want to hand out their flowers for acting when it's the big showy performances like Daniel Kaluuya gives. I'm not taking anything away from him, or, you know, any number of big, loud performances that you always see. But I just think it's really, like, you want to talk about a skilled actor. anybody can be loud, anybody can yell. Like, I mean, I'm no actor, but I feel like the things that are harder is conveying big emotions in small ways.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to roast Leo DiCaprio because I think he's a good actor, but Leo DiCaprio loves to shift into the, like, I'm yelling and I'm intense mode all the time. That's, like, his go-to move, and he's good at that. But I think it might take more skill to do what Lakeith Stanfield does and communicate so much with so little.
Right.
Should have won the fucking Oscar. I don't know who else was up that year, but I agree that Daniel Kaluuya deserved the Oscar for his performance.
Oh, for sure.
Are we done with the hate?
Yeah.
There wasn't hardly any hate. So we come to the question. Is this a perfect movie?
He lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And he was perfect. Perfect in every way.
I would say yes.
You know, I'm gonna go back to when I said when I'm the little movie crack addict looking for that, searching for that oomph, searching for that tingle. This gave me that tingle. This gave me that.
That's awesome.
I was like, fuck, this is good. Why is this so good? I didn't expect this to be so good.
That feels good for me because I recommend it to you.
And I'm usually such a snarky asshole that usually recommends something and I'm like, I mean, it was all right. It's hard for me to get, well, not that it's hard for me, but like, you know how I am. I see both sides of the coin. I often see the downsides and the upsides of everything.
It's hard for you to get emotionally invested.
I would say that, and also just like I'm maybe a little disaffected from most. I'm a little like level removed sometimes. Yeah. So
and there's nothing wrong with that. It keeps you level headed, I think.
When I watch some things, I'm like, I see why people like it, but I'm fine without it.
And then I'm the stark opposite, where I'm hyperbole king over here, where I love everything.
This is the best thing ever that I've ever seen.
I think we need this dynamic, though. It's a yin and yang.
This is why we're such a dynamic duo.
I'm trying to think of the Batman theme song. I was gonna do.
Well, that would mean one of us is Batman, and one of us is Robin.
I don't
want
to be bitch ass Robin.
That's what I'm saying.
All right,
I'm
we're
not
both
Batman.
You're Batman. I'm Batman Beyond.
Are there any good like superhero duos? But they're not like they're on an even plane. I don't think that exists.
So,
unless they're like twins.
Yeah, like the Shazam twins. Wasn't that a thing?
Not the Shazam twins. Oh, what is it? Quicksilver and
and Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
Are you the Scarlet Witch? No, I got the clouds hanging.
I'm the Quicksilver because I'll definitely get my ass killed trying to save somebody.
You'll die in that movie everyone forgot.
Yeah. So Judas and the Black Messiah, I think it's a perfect movie.
Kaylin, I'm gonna recast you with a different black friend when I reboot this podcast.
I'm gonna be a whole different shade of black. I'm thinking of Don Cheadle and the guy from Hustle and Flow.
Oh, fucking Terrence Howard?
Terrence Howard, yeah.
Hey, look, it's the same black. Cut to Donald Trump going, oh, look over there. That's my African American. Look at him.
Great fan. Great guy. In fact, I want to find out what's going on with him. You know what I'm... look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
All right. So we're inducting it. It's official. Let me put it on the list while we do it, because I think one of these recent times I forgot to add to the list. Our perfect movie list that will save us. Remember why we're doing this, folks. This is for when the aliens come, which I don't know if you've been checking the news, but they might already be here.
They might already be here, and y'all need to get ready to get probed.
Mommy. So, we've been shooting down shit in Canada. We've been shooting down shit over the U.S.
I actually heard Russia just shot down something the other day, so it's going down. Independence Day.
So when they come and they deem us not worthy, we'll be like, we have at least.
We got some movies you guys might like.
We got we got a handful of entertainment choices for y'all to watch, you eight-legged freaks.
That is also a movie. We should put that on the list.
That is a movie. It's a movie about spiders. So far, our perfect movie list consists of Star Trek. Wait.
Whoa. Relax, buddy.
Captain Kirk exposed himself to me. Okay. It's Star Wars Episode 5. The movie where the siblings kiss. Django Unchained.
Space incest.
A tradition. So old. How do you think we started humanity? It was Cain and Abel and their sisters.
How do you think we started space?
Right, I'm trying to get through this list. Star Wars Episode 5. Django Unchained. Napoleon Dynamite. We inducted the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy as one thing. Scream. Alien. Halloween. Do the Right Thing. And Judas and the Black Messiah. I'd say that list looks fucking good.
The list is good. I'm sure somebody would scream at us for Napoleon Dynamite.
You're wrong. Look, comedies can be great too. This is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a sad movie to be important.
It's true.
Napoleon Dynamite's important to me. It's important to many people.
It's true.
So many people owed Vote for Pedro. So many people owed Vote for Pedro t-shirts.
It's true. It's like still at Spencer's Gifts to this day.
You know what I think we should do maybe in April at some point? Maybe we'll do a couple movies and we got to go through our purgatory list.
Yeah, let's check out that list. I forgot
it's short right now. I think right now we only have 3. I thought this one might make it, but it didn't.
I want to take Men off of that.
Men is not.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's a perfect movie.
Purgatory list is Men, Die Hard, and we didn't actually put this in Purgatory because this was like our second episode, but I feel like Shawshank Redemption should be in the Purgatory list. I think we should come back to that and decide whether it's a perfect movie.
Yeah. We'll have to make that like shorter segments since we already talked about it. But yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, we don't have to like rehash everything. It's just like we go down the list. We're like, what do we think about it?
Why didn't we put Die Hard in the perfect list?
I was the one that was like, I'm not sure. It's a really good movie, but it doesn't give me the tingle. That's mostly what I was saying.
Fair enough.
I mean, I didn't say the tingle.
So our factor into how we figure out what is a perfect movie is if we have the tingle.
If you get the tingle. I mean, that's my first test.
Honestly.
Halloween didn't give me the tingle, but you gave me enough reasons that I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I think the rest of these movies gave me the tingle.
I mean, for me, how I judge a perfect movie is like the influence as well, and like how a movie stands the test of time, and how many fuck ton of other movies come out that are just the same plot generally.
Yeah.
That takes so much inspiration off of it, so that's why I put Halloween on there.
I do think the farther back you go, the more you need to take into account the influence, because it may not seem new and fresh to you now, but it was new and fresh when it happened.
So I don't even think we have a list of what to do next. We haven't really thought this far from Black History Month.
For March? Kaylin, did you forget?
I must have forgot.
Kaylin, it's musical March, but no musicals.
Okay, so we're doing
movies that have
music in them.
Have lots that are like heavily influenced by having music, but are not musicals.
That's right.
So the plot never stops, and there's a bunch of extras, and they all sing and dance about.
Are we doing School of Rock next?
So here's our options. We can choose what to do next. I have 4 movies. If I say them aloud, we will lock them in. I guess we can maybe. I think these should be the 4. Anyways. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Absolutely.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Haven't seen that.
I think we need to do it.
Okay.
School of Rock.
All right.
Hell yeah. Sister Act 2?
Hell yeah. Hell the fuck yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. He taught me how.
So I think the list is good.
Hell yeah. I'm down for that.
What do we want to do next?
I haven't seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Where Art Thou?
I really love that movie.
Okay.
Do you want to do that first?
We'll probably do that first because I have not seen that, and I haven't done a movie that I've gone in fresh yet. So
okay, let's do Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Okay.
So coming soon. Oh Brother,
Cool.
Where Art Thou? We still don't have a sign off.
Fuck y'all. Bye.